do this, and because of this, they think this or they feel that. Like, nah, that's full. How do you know what they're thinking? This guy might be a freaking rocket scientist, and he might be over analyzing your effect like crazy. While this woman, she might not even understand the slightest thing of it, and she doesn't even know where to start to analyze it. So how the fuck can we say I do this and I say this, and because of this, the audience is gonna think or say this? Come on, go fuck yourself. That's not possible. There we go. Hi
Hello,
guys, thank you
guys.
for joining another podcast.
Oh, we got each other. Okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3. Recording.
Hey guys, welcome to another podcast. I'm here with Mr. Pineapple. It's Alvaro.
Yes. Hi, guys. How are you doing? I'm with this beautiful face. We
It's not Victor
go. We
Pena,
don't.
it's Alvaro.
Yeah. Yeah. And today, in this third episode of this Invisible Practice podcast, we are going to talk about symbolism. Yes.
Exactly. Which of
Yeah.
course is also a suiting thing because recently we released a magazine and we had a beautiful article by Jared about art and medicine. Well, and then of course we have your magazine about the strokes of meaning, I believe. It was called From Strokes to Meaning, right?
Yeah.
And my magazine and my article in the magazine was the importance of symbolism in magic. So I think it was like quite an interesting magazine because, of course, we had Jared's article, which was then focusing on the art and medicine, which is also something like, what? There's art in medicine. Like, how is it art? That's science, right? That's not art. But there's definitely art in medicine. And then we had our articles, which were both focusing on symbolism. So since that was the case, I wanted to have a talk with you about that because I know not a lot of magicians think about it in that way, but we're both quite interested in in that subject. Also, guys, for those of you who haven't looked at it yet, our magazine is online for free. We would love for you to read it. Let us know what you think about it, what you like, what you don't like, what we can edit about it. Also, feel free to subscribe to our Patreon. It really makes sure that we can keep doing what we're doing right now. And that being said, overall, what was your like? Why do you think symbolism is so important in magic?
Well, first of all, uh, well, I could answer this question, very in a very simple way, okay? Because symbolism it's about the meaning, okay? If you want to do something more than an effect or something else than magic, and you want to transmit something about your inner world, you have to work on the symbolism to go deeper in the meaning of your magic, But
Mm.
but first of all, I would say like we should be conscious about the symbolism can be we can work on symbolism in different like areas, in different planes, like in the text, like in the representation that we are doing through the techniques, through the structure, whatever. But there's something that I'm working on, I've been working for many years, and it's this thing is the story. Okay,
Mm.
in Spanish we would say el relato. Okay, el relato. It isn't like it's something like more specific than the story, because the story sounds like something more general. But what I mean with el relato, it's like it isn't just the story. It's like the way you tell the story. Okay,
Mm.
it's like the point of view of the story. Okay,
Mm.
so what I'm saying with this is, for example, when someone is when someone writes a song, okay, and you have a listen of this song,
Mm.
uh, everyone says, yeah, I feel this when I listen to this song, okay, or yeah, the author is telling me this when he wrote the song, whatever. but the real thing is the author wrote a song, okay, and when he wrote the song, he was telling something, trying to drive you around a way, and he was showing you, like different areas of this. Roger is coming in and coming out. Yeah. So we should be focused on the story, on the relato, like this interesting thing, because when we are focused on the story, we can be like very efficient about the symbolism. For example, I have one of the pieces of magic that I published on my book, Chelsea, is La Fontana di Trevi, okay? La Fontana di Trevi, it's a very simple...
Which I love, by the way. It's a beautiful effect.
Oh, thank you. It's a very simple magic effect, okay? You tell the story that there is a tradition, that you go to a different country, you take a silver coin, and you are in front of a fountain, and you have to be reversed, having the fountain to your back, and you throw the coin, okay? Having a wish. So if this wish, makes real,
comes true, yeah.
It comes true, yeah. The fountain gives you back the coin, okay? So this is like the general idea. The effect is very simple. You have a joker, like representing the fountain, and a selected card representing the wish, okay? So the spectator has a wish, in this case a card. So you have the joker, and when you are putting the joker onto the spectator's hand, a coin appears on the hand of the spectator, okay? So when the coin appears, everyone knows that the wish, came true. And then you ask for the identity of the card, and the joker has transformed on the selected card. Okay, so here we have like a lot of symbols: the coin, the fountain, the desire. We even have the idea of appearing the coin first of all, and then people imagine that the wish has come true, So this in here, depending on how you put your point of view, okay, you have the ability to change, the meaning of the effect. So symbolism can give the tools to change the meaning of the effects. It can make something banal and something transcendental.
Right, and I think also like the interesting thing about like Fontina de Trevi, for example, like the effect you just described, is that it's sort of the effect and the story that you're telling with it are inseparable of each other. Because if you tell the story but it's just a color changing card, then it's sort of like, that's cute, but what the fuck happened to the coin? Hello here. And fuck. Oh, no, look.
It's an amazing.
Wait.
We have an amazing artist.
Look, we got our first fan art. Here we go.
Yeah, this guy was the one who designed our.
Actually, pretty logo. Nice, no?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
Shall we change our logo?
It's gonna be this now.
Yeah. For people who are listening and not watching the podcast, Rico's roommate has gave him a painting of a duck saying quack quack.
It's just quack. And like the nice thing is like maybe you can even make a shirt of this one
day. Yeah. So yeah, continue.
No, but right, but the two are inseparable, right? Because if just a color change, and that's a cool, then the story is sort of cool and cute. But why are you telling the story about this thing? Right? Like it doesn't make sense. Why are you telling the fountain? But if you show the effect without the story to it and the pattern and the right phrasing, then it's sort of like, okay, that's cool, but why does a coin appear while the card changes color? Like that also doesn't make sense. So the two are sort of inseparable. But then because you created the story in this frame of mind and this place of thinking, then all these symbols they sort of fall into place, and just like that you go like, oh, the wish came true, right? Which you never should say that in the end, but you only suggest in the beginning. They say when the wish come true, you get the coin back. And of course, you ask them later, can you think about your card? Can you wish for the card to be your card?
Yeah.
And they get the coin back, which is sort of also interesting because it also like I also feel it adds a different layer to it because they never actually threw a coin in the fountain, but in some way they did it mentally, right? Because when you say this, you walk in front of the fountain, you stand back with your back, you throw it over your head. You sort of imagine doing this also how difficult it would be to do this. And at the same moment, like this also created something real out of a mental picture, right? Because they never actually threw the coin in real life. It's sort of in their head, they probably went through these steps. And then in real life, they get the coin in their hand. They're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But the most important thing is that they instantly can connect the symbolism to the reality. They instantly understand because of the previous story what it means that they got the coin there. And they can sort of already feel when you move the card away and they see the coin that the card is probably changed.
Yeah. Totally. And the end of the effect is very important as well, because the magician gives the coin to the spectator, not as a present. It is just, it's your coin because
You give it back.
you were because you were the one who was asking for a wish, you know.
Exactly. And the fountain would give you back the coin.
Yeah. Well, it's important as well to know the meaning of the symbols.
Mhm.
So, I mean, even if you don't know the meaning of the symbols, it's important having the symbols because you're trying to transmit something, you know? So,
Yeah, so what I'm wondering then is like where would you draw the line for knowing the meaning of the symbols? Because for example, like I also currently I'm reading a book from Carl Jung about this called Men and Symbolism, which is about interpreting the symbolism of dreams, right? Because our dreams don't tend to communicate with us in a logical way, but rather it's instead of beginning, start, end, like no beginning, middle, end, like we our logical mind thinks. A dream just shows us an image or an ending or a middle or whatever, and that's it. And you can wake up disturbed or happy or feel whatever you want about it. But it's not logically constructed. And what Jung describes is that it's very important when they're treating people like as a psychologist to understand the symbolism and the meaning that the patient attaches to the symbolism. Because one patient can have a completely different feeling about a key than another patient, for example. So you just said it's important to understand the meaning behind the symbols, but where would you draw the line in that?
can you put could you put an example on the table, like comparing
Well, like
two situations?
because for example, right, like an interesting thing is you know the story Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And in the story Beauty and the Beast, the Beauty asks her father for a white rose. Like all the daughters want something big, but Beauty wants a white rose. And the white rose at the same time symbolizes her innocence and her pureness, because that's what a white rose symbolizes. But her father can never give this to her without like sort of waking up the beast, right? So she has to
Yeah.
give Beauty to the beast until the father becomes very ill and they get like a natural relationship with each other again, and she goes back to the beast. The beast gets healthy again, and the father as well. Well, just looking at a white rose, we say in mythology and everything, this is the symbol for innocence. But let's give you a really gruesome symbol. Let's say that your only memory of your father is seeing him dying in front of your eyes, and there were white roses next to him. You're most likely not going to symbolize the white rose with innocence, but rather with death and with destruction and with negativity. So what I'm saying to you is because we're talking about how can symbolism be used in magic, where do we draw this line of saying this is what it means? Because should it have a meaning just for you or for the participant that you're doing the magic for?
Well, I think it's important for both parts, but in different ways. For example, in a funeral in Spain, for example, we
Mm,
usually dress up, with black costumes, or
mm,
dark costumes. In Japan, I think it's in Japan they dress white
mm,
in funerals. Okay, so in Spain, it'd be like a little weird, okay, like seeing someone, dressing like that. But if I were in Spain, sorry, in Japan, and I was seeing someone, dressing white, and then someone else and someone else, and then everyone, dressing in white, I said, okay. So for me, it wouldn't mean the same that dressing in black, because my
mm,
tradition, my culture is like dressing black, but for them it would have a meaning, and for me it would
mm,
have a different meaning. But at the same time, I could interpret this in a similar way. Maybe not the same one, but similar. What I'm saying
mm,
here, it's like I remember, for example, my grandma used to live when she was a child in
mm,
Sidifni. Actually, one of my uncles was born in Sidifni in Africa.
mm,
She used to speak Arabic and everything. So in one of her trips, uh, when she was back in Spain, one of her friends was traveling around Africa. And when she came back to Spain, she was talking to my grandma, and she was saying, so I didn't like this country because I don't remember the name of the country, but I didn't like this country because after having lunch, they were barking, like very, very, very loud,
mm,
and even more and more and more. And I felt like very, very bad. And my grandma said, well, they were saying thank you. That's the way to feel grateful for your food and your invitation. And her face was like, so 1 or 2 months after the experience, she understood the meaning of this. So a bad experience at that moment
mm,
transformed 2 months after the thing, into something new. So that's why I took the idea from Jesus González Maestre, the literature professor from Spain, about magic doesn't give you, like knowledge. You have to have this knowledge previously to understand magic, or the same with
mm,
literature, because if you have this knowledge about it, you're going to know how to interpret it. If you are going to interpret it, So that's why, for
right.
example, my grandma, who was living in Africa, and who visited like different countries, knew that, and he could
Mm,
say this, Or, for example, I remember one of my friends from London. She told me, I met a Spanish guy, and he was super touchy, and I think he wanted to have, like an affair with me, blah 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 blah. And I
mm,
have a boyfriend. He has a girlfriend as well, blah, blah. And I said, no worries. Everyone in Spain is more touchier than other people in Europe. So
yeah.
yeah, but this person, he kissed me on my cheeks, when we see each other, and I said, that's how we say hello to
It's
each other and
normal.
goodbye.
Yeah.
It's normal. I said, really? Are you kidding me? No, that's completely normal. Oh, I told him like very bad things, like you are horrible. What are you doing? You have a girlfriend. So what I'm saying is like symbols. These kind of gestures are very important. So in magic, the
Mm,
same. So I think if you're doing like the gypsy thread, and you're talking about life and death, it's like very, very typical and very direct, because it's something that you are breaking and something that you're restoring.
mm,
But you can go, for example, Juan Tamaris talks about the ambitious card routine, like putting something in the middle of the deck. It's like putting something on the ground, and having something on top from the middle of the deck. It's like elevating something. It's like the resurrection of something.
mm,
So this symbolism behind the effect has to be, seen by the
mm.
magician, and then transmit by him as well.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that for in terms of symbolism, we should give the meaning that we see towards the symbols to it, like which are either inherited in our culture, in our family, or just to us as a person. We should put those into the magic and let that be an expression of us through that symbolism. And then if someone wants to really understand it, if they don't, they could study us or the culture that we're from or anything else to then better understand the piece.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's something that I don't really know yet about
Mm,
symbolism. For example, I really know that symbols can change a little bit the meaning of things depending
mm,
on the context or the way you transmit things. Or, for example, you have a cruise, and depending
mm,
on the orientation or the high of the tails or whatever, it changes, everything.
mm,
But the same with other symbols. But for example, I don't really know, the balance of
mm.
something that is inherent on the symbols, and that is acquired, you say, like something that comes from the outside, like
Mm.
I don't like an adjective, like a compliment, like because why for example the gypsy thread talks about life and death. Okay, we know that it symbolizes like when you break the thread and you restore the thread. It's the same that you die and then you restore the thread. It's like the resurrection and everything. But
But don't you also think in some way it's much more beautiful if you could give someone that same idea or that message without directly saying that you're doing that?
of course, I'm not saying that you should say it,
Mm.
but what I'm saying is like how how can we, is it possible to make, like to introduce our ideas, on these, symbols.
Right. So I think I have something that you would find interesting, right? Because I was once thinking about a presentation for the Gypsy Trip, and I was thinking about regeneration, right? Because everything in life, for some strange reason, regenerates itself. We have a tree and we cut it off, but we don't kill it entirely; it will grow again. And same goes, for example, with our hair. When we cut it off, it grows again. Or even if we cut our skin, we cut it. If we don't cut it off completely, but just there is a cut, it will regenerate. So I had this idea of doing the gypsy thread and like completely cutting it up and talking about how it would be if also deaf object, like objects which are dead, could do this. And then you would crumble and you would go like this, and the thread would be restored, but it would be all like tied together, right? Like it was regenerating itself, but it's still tied together, like it's all knotted together, like you have all these little knots. And then I had the idea of at one point just taking an end and just going like this, like all the knots are gone, and you just have the entire thread.
Yeah, my friend Pere Rafar from Barcelona, he has a similar idea.
Mm-hmm.
So he puts a candle on the middle of the table, like Eugene Barger used to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he's cutting the thread using the fire. So when he restores the thread, it's completely restored, but you can see like some black lines on the
Mm-hmm.
thread. Okay, so it's beautiful because it represents like the marks. For example, do you know the
Doesn't
routine?
that in some way also make it fictional?
Sorry, what did you say?
Doesn't that in some way also make it fictional, like looking at Gabby's idea of fictional magic?
Yeah, it's very actually. Pedro Rafar was Gavi's student.
Hmm, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
it's very in the fictional line. Actually, do you know David Williamson's restore car routine? Like,
No, I don't think so.
well, there's a selected car. It's
Hmm.
lost on the deck. He finds another card. It isn't. He breaks this card. He put it on the table, and then he finds the original card. This card transforms on the broken card, and the broken card is now the selected card. The selected card is held by the spectator on the fist, and then the card is restored, but it's like folded. And the last thing that David Williamson added to the routine was like removing all the marks from the card. So the card was like from the beginning, perfect. And all the magicians were clapping, on the lecture, and the performances as well. And I think it's very commercial. It's beautiful, but the symbols are gone when you do the last part of the effect.
And yeah, but are they though? Because I guess you could also then frame it in such a way whether or not, right? Like you could frame it in such a way where they see long enough how all the things are still together. Like if you could, just perfect scenario, if you could have this folded card which is completely fucked up, like you have here and here you have the lines, you could just take it like this and just remove like the center line, and it would still be a line in the center and like going up, right? Just not in the center anymore. And you would take from the bottom and you would remove to the top, and this would be gone as well. And now it's like a straight card.
Yeah, but in this case, it lets you to be like very theatrical or to give you something. But for example, when you remove the signature, do you know like the idea of removing the signature of a card?
Yeah, with an earnest exchange, for example.
Yeah. So the thing is, removing the signature, it's very very artistic, and there are like a lot of symbols behind of this because you have the signature here, but removing the marks doesn't give you like anything to remove. And because you're trying to represent that you are going back on time, but you're not going back on time because nothing is this, it isn't that clear like when you are doing, because it should be like with the, I don't know, it should be like progressive.
Well, I also had this other idea, which is like, do you know Vernon's version of Everywhere and Nowhere?
Yeah.
So I was using this version, and I really we talked about this earlier as well. I think I really love this version. But then I was also reading Sonata, and I like Tamaris's the hypnotic jokers, the Everywhere, and I think that's the Everywhere and Nowhere routine in there. Yeah, which is a great routine, and this sort of gave me the idea also from reading The Magic Way, that gave me the idea, like, because he says in the end it should be ideal that the spectator thinks it's either hypnotism or they're hallucinating, right? And I thought it would be interesting to just ask someone like, hey, do you believe in hypnosis, and just take a card and go like, because then they like put like some pendulum or some watch from the show, like, you become very sleepy, and then they put it away, right? And you fall asleep. Do you believe in that? You get sort of a conversation going with that, and then people ask, okay, you do it. I'm like, no, not really, but I can do something that looks like it. You pick a card, put it back, and you shuffle the cards, and you say, well, the chance that your card would be on top is very small right now, but it's possible, right? So yeah, turn over the top card. That's their card. It's just, they say, they go like, what the fuck? Is it your card? Yeah, it's my card. Turn it back down, put it on the table, turn over the next card, and you say, well, but your card could have also been here, for example. But we were very lucky now. But it could have been the second card. Turn over the second card. That's their card again. Turn it back down on the table. You say, or it could have been this card. Turn over the top card. It's their card again. And then you turn it back down, put it on the table. You tell them, but like, this couldn't have happened because, of course, you picked this one and you did the 5 of hearts, for example. Turn it over. It's the 5 of hearts, and they're going like, what the fuck? You're like, why? Yeah, because I had the 9 of clubs. No, you said your card was the 5 of hearts. Because it couldn't have been this card or this card. You turn the other cards over, and then you say, but really, you had the 9 of clubs? Because that's not possible. And you go into your pocket and you remove the 9 of clubs. Because you remember when I went in front of your eyes, like jokingly hypnotizing you? And then you showed them the 9 of clubs. Like, yeah, it's not possible. And I sort of enjoy the idea because I think if you would play this off correctly, you could give them the idea that they're hallucinating because you're playing so much that you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
Which I think could be like a fun idea to play with, and also to like create an experience with, because this is sort of where I play symbolism, right? With techniques and tricks where we're creating a trick or an effect, but with symbolism we're crafting more of an experience for the spectator, and maybe even something that you show them, and that 3 days later they go like, "Fuck, I get it."
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it'd be interesting to try to do the same, like through the effect, through the method, through the
Mhm.
construction. Not try to transmit an idea through like different aspects.
Exactly.
For example, how to transmit your idea of freedom, your conception of freedom,
Mhm.
your philosophical idea of freedom through your
Mhm.
magic. you know so for example, I was working on some philosophy, and ideas, and there was an idea that I really like, like conceiving freedom, like what others, allow you to
Mhm.
do, like let you to do,
Mhm.
like, I don't know if it makes sense in English, like what others allow you to do, like,
Mhm.
yeah. So this is actually a good definition of the force, like a technique.
Mhm.
I'm going to allow you to pick a card from here, or I'm going to allow you to pick this card that is the one that I want you to pick.
Mhm.
So the thing is, we should try to find, the way to express ourselves, through our magic. So
Mhm.
sometimes we want to transmit, yeah, I want to do something, or to tell a story about, I don't know, two polices who catch, whatever. So I'm going to do
Burglar.
yeah, but a sandwich routine. It's like, yeah, very typical. But come on, try to grab something, something deeper or more ambitious or something.
It still depends though, because like let's say that you have someone that enjoys to write stories and you wrote this really deep story about two police who catch a burglar, but it's poetic in some way or worked
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
But it's more about, there are a lot of people who just write a presentation just for the sake of writing a presentation. They go like, so they go like, okay, we have four jacks, four queens, four kings, and four aces, and you have the effect that there's a good version in it in the Fine Art of Magic, but I believe Tamaris also has a version in his book about it, where you are mixing those cards up, and in the end, all the aces go with all the aces, all the queens go with all the queens. Right? We first put all the suits together, but in the end, for some miraculous reason, all the queens are with queens, ace with aces, kings with kings, jacks with jacks, and you could give a really beautiful presentation with that. But you could also just say, what do these things mean to me? Oh yeah, they're queens, jacks, king. Oh, they're people. Okay. Okay, yeah. So they're gonna, I don't know, they're gonna join their own kind or something. You just tell this cheesy fucking story which no one really cares about. And that when you look at, you sort of want to throw up in your mouth, and you go like, dude, are you really telling this to people? Like, this might be a good presentation for kids, but are you really telling this to people?
yeah, yeah.
I, I don't know, man, but
Yeah. Well, it is about, not always. I mean, there are more about words. I mean, there are like
mm,
more things, for example, about objects. For example, the elements that you use. Like
definitely.
a deck of cards. You have like two colors, 52 cards, like four suits and all the symbolism behind the deck of cards and the numbers, we don't usually use this, you know, just for the oil and water routine, you know, showing the duality and the contrast of this, but we can use it for everything, you know, like there are a lot of symbols behind this, even the coins, even a wine glass or a handkerchief or many, I don't know, many other elements. So
so how would you transfer an idea using symbolism without words?
well, it's interesting because the main idea is we need to transmit an idea. It doesn't matter if it's going to be through words or without using words. So if it's going to be without words, we have to write, you know, on the paper as well, you know, like the story that we want to tell, and the perspective to recreate el relato, you know, like the point of view of the story. And in this point of view, if we want to talk about, I don't know, put a thing on the table, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Say something, I don't know, something about a ring. Oh yeah, but a ring is the element, right? Okay, a ring is the element. Let's talk about engagement.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe if we want to talk about engagement, we can use a ring. So then we have like different perspective. We can talk about the compromise, you know, when we have an engagement, or breaking this compromise, or for example the different moments of an engagement, when people trust each other, but some of any of these two people, you know, makes a mistake and the other, you know, stop trusting this person, you know, and then so then in there we can find like a lot of effects, you know, for example having two rings and they attract each other, you know, till they are inside they links, yeah, they inside each other, they links. And when some, if we want to transmit that there are one who made a mistake, one of them can be broke or just separate, and they don't attract each other anymore because they don't trust or whatever. But there are like thousands of effects that we can do. Some of them, you know, makes bigger or smaller or changes or even disappear or flies or for example, we can put one of them on a glass, on a wine glass, and we can cover this wine glass with a handkerchief, and we can put the other ring here, and when we pass the hand very close, we can do what Giuseppe Pinetti used to do, you know, and the ring is inside the glass is like jumping. So we can represent, you know, like this excitement, you know, so the reconciliation or whatever. So the symbolism is right there. What we want to do is like, it isn't the same just to just taking a ring and saying, look, the ring is gonna fly, it's flying. That creating something and then putting this effect on context, because there are going
so
to
in
be
that
like
logic, you could also add symbolism to it by adding a new element to the mix, right?
Of course.
Because what you're saying is, if we would have a wine glass and we put a ring inside and it would start jumping, oh, that's cool. But if we would then have like a second ring which we would pass over the glass, and that's the moment when it starts jumping, there's a new symbolism to it.
Yeah, because it isn't the same. Like for example, Pinetti used to do an effect like a selected card, and the ring, actually it was a coin, a borrowed coin, and the coin had to guess the identity of the selected card. So the magician used to say, "Is it a red card?" And the coin was on the glass. Okay, didn't move. It was a black card, and the coin was jumping. Bling, 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 bling. Okay, now we know that it is a black card. It is a spades, nothing. It is a clubs, bling, 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 bling. Okay, it's a black and it's close. So like this. So
Mm,
it's okay. But when you put a ring instead of a coin, for example,
mm,
just it is different. But when you put something around, and there's another ring, your hands or someone else's hand or whatever, it changes a little bit. So
mm,
that's why my doubts are about how much, space do we have
mm,
for new, like new ideas or something from the outside, and how
mm,
much is for the symbols,
mm,
itself. Like a ring is a ring, the effect is the effect, okay, and they are mixing, and this is the meaning, okay. But
mm,
combining these things, how much can I change, this, combining things. I don't know.
mm.
I have like a lot of doubts with that.
That's a good question. But yeah, like I think it's also important in this to in magic we very often say I want to make the spectator feel this or I want them to realize this or that. But I think it's very important that we also leave space for the audience because we cannot say I want you to feel this or that. And then what are you gonna do? You're what are you saying? Like, hey, I'm the almighty upper god of magic, and all of you guys are my little bitches because I'm gonna make you feel this or that. No, man. You create the opportunity for your audience to feel a symbol, to have an experience, to have this or that. You're not saying I do this, and because of this, they think this or they feel that. Like, nah, that's full. How do you know what they're thinking? This guy might be a freaking rocket scientist, and he might be over analyzing your effect like crazy. While this woman, she might not even understand the slightest thing of it, and she doesn't even know where to start to analyze it. So how the fuck can we say I do this and I say this, and because of this, the audience is going to think or say this? Come on, go fuck yourself. And that's not possible. However, I think we're creating the opportunity for someone to feel or to see something amazing, or under the symbolism to interpret it in such a way that could have them leave the show as a different person than when they entered the show. But it's not about forcing it on someone, it's about creating the opportunity for them to experience this. And if they're open to it, they might actually have that.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting sentence that I don't remember who said that, but it's interesting. That when you have to do a speech or a show, whatever, if
Mm,
no one is offended, you didn't say anything.
right.
And
I think that's very true.
so the thing is, I think
Or not necessarily
magicians don't.
offended, but when everyone agreed also, right?
Yeah, when they don't agree, yeah, but I think magicians don't usually run the risk.
Mm.
They are just with their smile, their jackets, their magic tricks from the shops, and saying,
But
"Hey,
that's so it's so weird, isn't it? Because if we look at the people that we usually respect, those are usually people with an opinion. People who have a political stance, who have a certain way of looking at life, that say something. And like they say, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. So one person might have the opinion that well, that life is great and people are good. But the other person might have the opinion that people are not good, that people are only egocentric and they only think about themselves. So if you go out there and you share that opinion about it, then there are people that disagree with you, right? But as you say, if we do magic and no one disagrees with it, with the slightest, then don't have we really said something? Because there must always be at least one person there who has a different opinion than everyone else. You might not say it, but he's there. But I think the problem with it is that we're also looking at magic in the market very much from a commercial point of view, right? And is it commercial to say things? Is it commercial to do those things? Is it even commercial what we're doing right now? Or are we going to be banished from the magic community? Who knows? We'll figure it out in 2 years. We don't know. But it's important to share an opinion in my opinion. That's my opinion. Maybe some people's opinion is that it's not important. You just should shut up, be a brave slave, and do whatever you're being told by the government and the other people around you have more money, and that's the way to live. Um, anyway, I think it's a very important thing to say something, but it's not the most commercial thing. Just like what you're saying, if you say the card and the coin starts to pling on what is it, this card, that card, that's easily understandable for everyone. You're not saying something, but it's easily understandable for everyone. Whereas if you're doing this beautiful piece with the two rings and it starts clinking and symbolizes it, and maybe it clings and jumps up and it matches, and then you get some sad music and it falls down into the glass and they won't don't go cling 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 anymore and it won't link anymore, and it just sort of repulses and even maybe like it goes close and then the glass just shoots away. You're running the risk that not everyone will understand that. I mean, we've been talking about it now and it's pretty easy to understand in this context. But if you're trying to do something like that, you're running that risk that not everyone will understand that. But in that case, it's important, I think, to realize what kind of magician do you want to be and what do you want to say. Because there are some guys like David Blaine or Asi Wind who are just out there to fuck you up, to make your head explode. And that's amazing. That's their art. Their art to make your head explode. If that is art, I don't know. But that's their art. But if you're trying to say something, in this case through symbolism or to something, you're going to run the risk that people might not understand.
Yeah, that's the second part. Like
Mhm.
if we want to relate this to art, like that's another thing, like who says if something is art or not, or that's
Well,
why
that's another discussion.
yeah.
But in relationship to them being commercial or not, like Joseph Campbell in the book Pathways to Bliss has a very interesting analysis. I sent it to you like 2 years ago. When I just came back, like when I came back from London, I sent this picture to you. But what he was describing was that some people like that really get into an art, that usually the first phase you go to master and you learn this art. And then you come into a phase where you're starting to put your own things into the art. And you're becoming your own person in this art. You're expressing yourself. But very often you might be really good at the art, you might be a craftsman, but you're running into the risk to be misunderstood. And there's not a lot of money or commercial value in it. So those people very often end up teaching because they're very good technicians and they're very good artists, but society doesn't necessarily understand. For example, look at Van Gogh. That's the saddest thing ever because Van Gogh now is seen as one of the biggest painters of all time. But in his time, no one understood it.
Yeah.
There was no one. Going back to that, it is possible, however, to when you keep developing your art and you keep teaching and learning to get to a point where you find a compromise. So this is a point where I can say what I want to say with symbolism, but I also understand until which point my audience and the people watching it can comprehend it. And I can simplify this really difficult, complicated idea that I have in my head of how the symbolism is to something which is a lot simpler. Still saying the same thing with less words, less gestures, less whatever. And then it sort of can become commercial again. But that's a really long road.
Yeah. Well,
What that's also saying is don't see the way that everyone else is doing it as the only way to go.
yeah, but what it's clear, it's like someone who doesn't know anything about a discipline can't really judge if something is art or not, or if something is good or bad, isn't it?
I suppose, but if you want something to be commercial, you judge whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's different. For
And
example,
this,
commercial magicians are usually the ones who say, I don't agree Robert Down when he says when he said, like the magician is an actor who interprets, like the character of a magician. And actually they are the first actors, because they are being hired for different customers, and they are interpreting the character that they know the customer is going to like, because they are commercial. They are not having, they are not running the risk of showing, a point of view every time, the same point of view, being disliked, for running the risk of being disliked for someone. So what the heck, the thing is, I don't mind, I don't care about the position, about the opinion of someone, about the point of view of someone. The thing is, try to be conscious about your point of view. I try to be reasonable, try to be how do you say it in English? Sorry, I'm mixing now languages. Like coherent, like if you say this, try to follow the same steps. Don't try to change the way, because if I realize about this, I'm going to tell you, and try to
oh yeah,
justify this.
But what I'm meaning is not necessarily that you're gonna
I'm not
change
saying to
your.
you. Sorry.
No, I know, but as you like, because for that last step, that might be misinterpreted as you have these ideas, but then you're gonna conform to what people can comprehend, and in the end, you're not gonna express your thing. But it's more about you learn and develop and mature the things that you want to say in such a way that you know that if I say it in such and such a way, people can also comprehend it while I still expressing and saying what I want to say and do. But that's a different level of doing it. And that's also why I thought Jared's article was perfect with the articles that we wrote, because his article was about the art in medicine, and especially about the part that the art in medicine is to clearly transfer your ideas. And because there was this really genius doctor in Vienna with this whole idea about if you would disinfect things, that this would really help a lot. Like you would the rate of people of mothers dying when a child was born would be brought down significantly. Although he could never properly prove it because he was also very radical in his ideas and in saying it. So people didn't like him so much. So he couldn't properly communicate those ideas, even though they were very important to the medicine, even until today. He couldn't properly communicate those ideas to other people to comprehend it. And because of that, it wasn't accepted until much, much, much later. Which could be the same case with magic, right? Like, say what you want to say, but also I think at one point realize in some way to which degree people can comprehend it. And if they can't do that yet, that's no problem. Go keep doing what you do. And you're gonna find a point that you find a way to say it in a way that other people can get you. While at the same time you're saying what you want to say.
Yeah.
You have anything
Yeah.
to add to that?
Yeah, I'm trying to process everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I mean the thing is, it's really difficult to know, how important it is for people. For example, Cristian Miro, it's an Argentinian magician. He lives in Spain. He used to perform in cruises. He's really, really good. And he's very humoristic, and he does mentalism. I think you call it Yeah, like
Ventriloquism, where you talk with the puppet.
ventriloquism. Yeah, so he's really nice. Every time he performs, the show has an standing ovation reaction.
Awesome.
So he says, I can show my point of view on the show, but I need the standing ovation to renew my contract every season, on the road, and I have to feed my family, and it's necessary to do that, So what I do is like I show them, the way that I talk to my partner, like the doll, or I show them the way that I talk to the spectators, or the way that I make the humor, but I don't talk about politics, religion, or football.
Mm.
That's like
Or
the
football.
taboo.
Very good.
It's like the three things, So he's showing everything except for that. So he doesn't run the risk about these three things, I think it's like very honorable, about him. It's like I can talk about everything except for these three things, What I'm saying with this is like talking about symbolism. It is we don't have to be like super deep, but for example, if you do a piece of magic with coins, and you use like old coins about he's Argentinian, he could use, instead of dollars, like coins from Argentina. If he uses, like his nationality as something good, like a positive thing for his character, he should use, like Argentinian coins, or for example, tango music, or I don't know, the accent. For example, Helder Guimaraes used to say like words in Spanish badly in purpose, because they sound like super funny. So he was super clever because he knew, like the language. He's bilingual in Spanish, but he was pronouncing badly some words in purpose because he knew like we were gonna laugh, So this is very clever, So these kind of things, I like simple things, and I think everything in addition is like, something else.
So I think on that note, that's a good way to close the podcast.
yeah, probably.
Got a bit deep, got a bit heavy, but we're hoping to see you guys again next week.
Yeah, of course.
If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Patreon, because at least give us a follow on YouTube. Give us a like. Let us know about what you thought about the podcast. Start a discussion. We would love to discuss this with you and know your opinion. And we hope that you guys check in next week. Have a great week, guys.
Yeah, have a lovely week, guys. See you next week.